Hello everyone. The title of today's webinar is Professionalism, Position Yourself for Success. Again, my name is Elisa Ramos, Program Coordinator of the SEOU program. So here's an overview about what we're going to discuss today. The first being looking good on paper, phone, as well as web, focusing on your appearance, both visual and verbal, developing a 30-second personal pitch, also known as an elevator pitch, making professional contacts, on the job, managing your professional reputation, and lastly, 10 rules for success in corporate America. So what is professionalism and why is it important? So as you can see, the definition from Webster's Dictionary is the conduct, aims, or qualities that characterize or mark a profession or a professional person. So notice the word mark. Now let's talk about how you will set your mark. So the goal is to position yourself. So really think about how you want to position yourself as a professional. Outside of demonstrating maturity and judgment, you want to make sure that you're focused on the end goal, positioning yourself for success as a professional. So what position do you want to take? Do you want to be considered smart, polished, a team player, a good communicator? Well, as a professional, you're definitely going to want to embody all of these positions. Remember, every interaction is an opportunity to influence and position. In other words, every interaction is an interview. So hopefully that's going to guide the rest of this piece. So let's start by looking good on paper, phone, as well as the web. So looking good on paper. A resume is a marketing tool, not an autobiography. So many times I see that students want to make sure that they're including all of their experiences, and it's a little bit difficult to get that all on one page. So just basic guidelines for formatting. One page, definitely no typos, so it really helps to have someone look at your resume beforehand. And no high school experience. I know many of you have had experiences, and that can definitely be an offline conversation that you feel are applicable, such things as running your own business or even something having to do so closely with finance. So that's definitely something we can talk about. But for all other high school experience, extracurriculars, even retail jobs, that's not something that you include in your resume. Next, your resume should cover the experience and skills most needed for the position you desire, not just a summary of everything you can do. So you want to make sure to include concise, quantifiable, meaning numbers, action-oriented summary of experiences, education, and skill set. Really answering the question who, what, why, when, where, how. So really just being as comprehensive as possible, talking about what you did, and really making sure that you're linking that to a skill set. That's really important to help guide those statements. So not to say this industry or this company does this, to say, listen, this is what I did while working there, which helped me develop this skill set, result being such and such. So really to have those action-oriented statements. Highlighting leadership roles, clubs, organizations, and unique achievements awards. You want to remember to highlight key experiences and leadership roles that make you stand out as a unique individual. Skills not relevant to the position should only get a mention or should be omitted. Really, you want to customize your resume and cover letter for each type of job you are seeking. So really tailor that resume. You want to make sure that your resume has a common thread, has a common theme, and so that's why it helps to have a few resumes on hand actually for different experiences. Lastly, it's very beneficial to have your resume up to date and on hand whenever a networking opportunity should arise. Really keep your resume current and available. Again, I'll have students that will come to me, show me resumes and say, well, that doesn't embody 2 years of experience that I've had. Make sure that on a constant basis, at least monthly, that you're looking at your resume and you're making sure that if you do have new experiences that you're adding it, new leadership roles on campus. All of those things really help you stand out, help keep you current. And next, telephone and email contact. This is a huge component. So many times we don't realize how we sound via phone, via email, and what perceptions are being made because of the way that we're conversing with in a business sense. So one thing I've seen is that some of you will not give an appropriate salutation, such as a hello when writing an email, will either go directly into the reason for the message, etc. So really, you should constantly script yourself whenever contacting a professional. And I will just say a word to the wise, that definitely means an SEO professional as well. I know sometimes it's a little bit disorienting because we'll have conversations with cohort leaders, mentors, and it's really seen in an informal sense. And that's something that you should definitely err on the side of caution about, just because, again, when you're dealing with when you're part of a pool of students or candidates, those things are going to set you apart and not in a positive sense. So some key things to remember: check your email and voicemail regularly. Make sure that you're getting back to people, and that you're at least being clear as to when you could get back to them if unfortunately you don't have the time at that moment. You also want to make sure that you draft voicemails and emails and review before sending. A lot of times I'll see that students either sent a blank email or something was misspelled. Again, perception, making sure that you're coming across the way that you really are and not, without an attention to detail to your nature. Do not send or forward inappropriate emails, and this is most specifically while at work. You want to make sure that you're keeping that for work basis, and really this is just a checks and balances for yourself. It's fine that oftentimes you'll have colleagues and you'll have personal interactions with them. That's fine, but you just want to make sure that you're keeping yourself safe from any review, because usually in a work sense, especially with Outlook, your managers do have access to that, and so that's something that you want to make sure that you're being cautious about. Learning the firm's communication style, that's really huge as well. Just making sure that you are understanding that if email is used strictly professional sense, that you're also doing that you're updating, and really that you're understanding the corporate culture when you first get there so that you're able to communicate effectively. So if people speak to one another in emails in very brief 2 lines, make sure you're not writing a huge paragraph. Little things to make sure that you're conforming to their communication style, and in doing so, you're part of the communication. And lastly, making sure that your voicemail is professional and that it's not tailored towards friends only, if that's being used in a business sense, that in the broad sense that it's as professional as possible. Looking good online. So really managing your cyber reputation. Another thing is to keep in mind how you appear online. This is something that you want to monitor religiously. Since the internet is so readily available, it's so innovative, and oftentimes privacy settings can get really convoluted, you want to make sure that you're managing your online photos and that those things are kept private. Some of the first things that we'll do with an SEO intern when we're actually evaluating them is we'll look for them on Facebook. We're all on Facebook. Age-old, there's no demographic for Facebook, so that's definitely something that you want to monitor. And again, just look at your Facebook as an outsider and say, what reflection of myself am I putting out there? Google yourself to see what other people see. Be careful when blogging. This is really huge. A lot of that stuff is public. So if I search your name and or email, I could probably, all of that stuff will pop up. And believe me, I've seen some of the worst things out there. And I'm sure, you definitely want to make sure that you're expressing yourself and that your personal life is separate, but also that it's private for those that you feel you want to share that with. So make your social networking pages as private as possible. And then, just an age-old reminder, your personal profile is public property. So you never know who is watching, your future employer included. So next, focusing on your appearance, visual and verbal. So we have here 2 examples. So as you can see, the man is wearing a black suit. And it's pretty well sized, form-fitting. He has a light blue shirt. So really business formal. This is a perfect reflection of that. Conservative colors, shirts are light blue or white. Suits are black or navy blue. A lot of times you'll see students with gray suits or brown suits. Really, that's business formal will mean black or navy blue suits. So just something to keep in mind. And then for ladies, obviously the same thing. And make sure that that skirt is fitted, not too tight, and also not something that's above the knee is a really good thing to keep in mind. And again, this is business formal, not business casual. But for the remainder of SEO internship, whenever you hopefully do become an intern, this is going to be your main dress code, business formal. You also want to make sure it's neatly pressed and that you're getting things dry cleaned adequately and not too shabby, not too wrinkled when you're going into work. So really use what you have that conforms to these standards. And another thing too that's not discussed on this slide is even haircuts. So making sure that it's clean. For men, that you have a short haircut and nothing too flashy. So really, and women as well, making sure that you're not wearing jewelry that's too flashy. Because the goal, again, when you're in these industries, when you're in these companies, is not to stand out in terms of your own personal expression in modes of dress, but to stand out in your work ethic and how hard you work. So you want to make sure that you're not doing anything, again, to provide the wrong perception of why you're there. So really to show off your work ethic, to show off your hard work and your products, and not necessarily your mode of dress. And then appearance, presenting yourself. Talking the talk in a nonverbal sense. So give specific experience examples and answer questions directly, always referring to people by their last name, i.e. Miss Ramos, unless they state otherwise. And as you can see in many of my emails, I'll sign it Elisa Ramos, and that's totally fine if I'm called Elisa, but again, I've made that explicit that that's my name. So until people state otherwise, make sure to use that last name approach. Again, giving specific experience examples and really being able to convey passion through your industry knowledge. So ask smart questions that demonstrate research, be positive and exhibit interest and energy. And really the best way to practice this is in those program manager office hours, making sure that you are, not just asking questions about the program manager, which definitely does reflect your interest in them, but really reflecting interest in the programs that they manage, asking questions about, say, investment banking, what are the difference between the coverage group and M&A. So, how do those things really look in a sense of making sure that you're talking about the program, that you're talking about your interest in the industry, even in your interest in SEO. That's a way that you convey passion through really thought out questions, and also making sure that you bring across what you've done in terms of your research, your experiences in school, or even your experiences in the workplace. And lastly, nonverbal. So really, practice makes perfect with this. Giving a firm handshake, nobody likes a dead fish, as they say, and really just making sure that you're practicing that you're looking at people in the eye, standing or sitting up straight and maintaining eye contact, not fidgeting or exhibiting any nervous gestures. Again, for the most part, this is going to be a challenge for many people because oftentimes subconsciously we do these things. So again, really practice makes perfect, from practicing in the mirror to practicing with friends or industry professionals. And unfortunately, this is a virtual program, but there will be an opportunity at the end of the year to correspond with professionals, to network with them. And even in the program manager office hours, those are going to start being in Skype form soon, so that's going to be a great way for us to give you feedback about those things. And next is developing a 30-second personal pitch. So personal pitch, really this would be best described as personal marketing. So occasionally the explanation of what you do or why you were looking for something requires a long answer with great detail. So why do you want to be in the industry? Who are you? This is something that can get really complicated when you're put on the spot, so it's really great to have your pitch ready. So this may happen when you're speaking with someone who is unfamiliar with your background. However, you should be prepared for the other times when you have only 30 seconds to a minute to give a concise explanation of the question, tell me a little bit about yourself. So be prepared to have a clear, concise summary of who you are, why you are speaking. Pick the right time, make sure to read social cues, and don't be too aggressive. So again, self-promotion begins with self-awareness. So the practice makes perfect thing, key here. Who are you? What do you want to do? What contributions have you made? So what have you done? And why do I want to work with you or for you? So really think on the outside sense, why does this person appeal to me as a potential intern, as a potential employee? Be memorable and follow up with every contact. So really essentials, name, don't forget that, as well as education, school, and major. And again, making sure that you're practicing this in 30 seconds. So again, who are you? What do you want to do? What contributions have you made? And why do I want to work with you or for you? Mentioning as well your interest in that, in speaking with that individual. So making sure that you're reciprocal, so that you're asking about them as well as telling them a little bit about yourself. So really, it is your responsibility to market yourself. Relevant topics of discussion include credentials, accomplishments, and even interests. So if you find a common interest, that's definitely something that you can have a conversation about with a professional. Next, making professional contacts. So moving along as to how one does that. So making professional contacts is really important, especially at this time in your career when really you want to seek out not only professional contacts for employers, but also mentors. So here's a great list of a few places you'd want to start doing that and practicing. Diversity career club fairs on campus. Professional associations, which oftentimes are very much advertised on campus. College career fairs, very big place to do that as well. Oftentimes students won't go to these things because they'll say, oh, I could just apply to them directly online. I will say, do not underestimate the power of a personal connection, of seeing someone face to face and giving them your resume. Oftentimes in these college career fairs, they'll even review your resume. So it's really, really, really great to have that experience and making sure that you're taking advantage of it while on campus. Company information sessions, that's also very huge. Again, really having that face-to-face contact. Informational interviews. So, speaking to someone that you meet at a networking event and just say, I'd really like to know a little bit more about what you do. Is there any time that we can sit down and you can tell me a little bit more about it? So that would be that informational interview. If you, create enough interest in that personal pitch about yourself and in the questions that you ask, I guarantee 9 times out of 10, that will lead to that person either recommending a place of employment or even, talking about an open position there at all. And then lastly, meeting with alumni from your school or organization. And in addition, we're going to add SEOU Day to that. So that's definitely going to be a great time to talk with alum from the SEO program as well as staff, in addition to just getting some training. So it's going to be a really great comprehensive event. I'll definitely get more details about that next month. Now that you're ready to present yourself, these are the opportunities, remembering to meet with people who have already journeyed on the path that you're on. And again, just kind of walking you through this. So when making professional contacts, you want to be prepared to have a goal and objective in mind. So what is it that you want to accomplish? Some examples might be relationship building, even creating a list of contacts, finding a job. And, a key one that I think students will sometimes underestimate is building that rapport with someone and making sure that you're practicing these things and putting yourself out there. So really make sure to come prepared to present yourself, and coming prepared means doing your research and demonstrating knowledge, being on time, knowing the location. These are just really key things. Resume, paper, pencil, again, substantive questions, dressed appropriately. And networking. It's really, really huge to find and create niche opportunities. Apprenticeships, informational interviews, professional shadowing even. And then lastly, just one network tip that I actually picked up a few weeks ago was make sure to keep your drink in your left hand and shake with your right hand. There's so many times that you might have to wipe off your hand. It looks a little bit awkward. So just make sure, again, drink in your left hand, shake with your right hand. Always have that hand prepared to shake someone's hand. Next, on the job, managing your professional reputation. So you want to make sure that you're marketing yourself, continually managing your perception, and you can do so in the following ways. So really learn to prioritize projects and assignments, and a great surefire way to do that is actually to talk to your manager, and if they haven't been explicit as to what takes priority, just saying, listen, I feel like based on what our discussion or our meeting that this is a priority list, and I just wanted to make sure that I'm doing this in the correct format that you'd like, in the correct steps. So really just making sure that you're doing that and have that time management ready. So really managing your time wisely, using Outlook, using weekly templates, even a glorified to-do list with making sure that you have that on a weekly basis or at least a daily basis is really going to help you manage your time. Sometimes even just seeing it on paper, seeing it in front of you, having an Outlook reminder or a Gmail reminder will help you in managing your time wisely. Developing your skills on a continual basis. Again, Many of us come from, you've probably had so many experiences in the workforce, on campus, and you kind of see that you are really, stand apart from all the rest. Don't underestimate the power of really just honing your skills, developing them, being eager to get more and more. You never want to get too comfortable in your skill set that you don't see room for growth. So really just making sure that you're reaching out to individuals, that you're taking advantage of trainings and other resources, and obviously, through SEOU even, that you can benefit from. Like always, under-promise, over-deliver. So focus on being perceived as a hard worker who is articulate, has a wonderful personality, and also just making sure that you're not biting off more than you can chew. So if you do want to make sure that you are being perceived as a hard worker, under-promise, over-deliver. Be creative in managing time and relationships with colleagues. So take advantage of all opportunities to learn more and network. Again, many times we'll just sit at our desk and focus on getting the job done, and that's huge. But also networking and relationship building, don't underestimate that. If it's something that challenges you, even myself, that used to challenge me a lot, just make sure to take yourself out of your comfort zone. This is the time when you develop these skills. This is the time when you're positioning yourself as a professional. Make sure that people know that, and make sure that, again, you're developing your skills even through those relationships. And lastly, believe in yourself. Believe that you can do it. Believe that, some of the greatest professionals in the world, those folks that you look up to, were in the same boat as you years ago, and really took these opportunities very seriously to position themselves as professionals. So on the job do's and don'ts. So the don'ts, so we'll start out with that. Don't pretend to know something that you don't. I know that many students will say, oh, well, you fake it till you make it. And that's true to a certain extent in making sure that, professionally, if you're erring on the side of caution when you don't necessarily have the answer in front of you. But try to make really good assumptions. And if you don't have an answer to a question, just say that I don't have the answer to this question now, but this is what I'm going to do to get there. So really making sure that you don't pretend something that you don't, and that it doesn't look, one, deceitful, and two, like a reflection on your own intellectual capacity, that you don't know something. Sometimes, you just need to take steps to get there, and being explicit about that is fine. Just making sure that you're also, one step ahead all the time is going to be a good way to not pretend to know something you don't. Don't let a bad day get you down. This is, definitely just something about believing yourself as well, and making sure that you're keeping your personal life separate from your work life to a certain extent. Don't take yourself too seriously. I think that this, can be perceived in a number of different ways. But I think that it also focuses on really just making sure that you're developing your skills on a continual basis, and that you don't necessarily come across as a know-it-all or as someone who, isn't able to form relationships, but really that you're being as sociable as possible, and that you're also making sure to enjoy the learning process. Don't take on more than you can handle. Again, that's that under promise, over deliver. Don't focus all your attention on senior management. This really comes off, sometimes badly when students will focus only on senior level managers, and not see the benefit of relating with colleagues or even direct managers. So making sure that you're really being comprehensive in your relationship building. Don't have nothing to do. If you don't have anything to do, making sure that you're managing your time wisely, not only that, but that you're going to your superior, and if for some reason they're not able to give you something, that you're asking for more work, that you're even asking your colleagues, is there anything else I can help you with? And even if not, just really taking the initiative, and if you see someone working on an administrative task, helping out in that sense, or even just utilizing the training packages or materials that you have at your disposal as being a part of that job. Don't ask everyone the same questions. People talk, and if you're asking everyone the same questions, obviously you're not tailoring it enough, and it comes off slightly awkward. So make sure to be as varied as possible and be specific in your questions. And lastly, don't talk negatively about coworkers. I have to tell you, this will come back to you, karmatically speaking or otherwise. This really can be a bad zone for building yourself up as a professional if the perception of you is that you're talking negatively. Regardless of another coworker, try not to be reactive and try to be proactive in forming good relationships and not talking negatively. The do's. So take notes and stay organized. Be yourself. Be open-minded, so really have that active mind. Be punctual, first in, last out. Ask thoughtful questions. Again, that helps in demonstrating and conveying enthusiasm as well as knowledge. Understand that everyone makes mistakes. So that's huge. So really just making sure that you're able to bounce back because this is a learning time. So you're not going to necessarily be perfect at everything that you do. And sometimes that can be really disorienting, but really learning from your mistakes and growing from those. Pay attention to the details. I will not say this enough. Print out your email to that senior level manager or even your boss if you're unsure about typos. Just really making sure that you're being as attentive to those details as possible. I guarantee that's where you're going to be as effective as a professional as possible, is making sure that you're able to really read thoroughly through things and that you're not sending anything with typos and that you're really being insightful and thoughtful about what you do. Be proactive. And lastly, again, demonstrate energy and interest. That always comes across positively. So next, 10 rules for success in corporate America. So make sure that you have your notes section for this and that you're able to take notes on this because this is actually shown in our orientation this year for our interns and they found it to be extremely helpful. So rule 1, be able to socialize with people in power positions. Have your personal pitch ready and practice, practice, practice. Make sure to challenge yourself by approaching professionals in the field with confidence and self-assurance. You only get that through practice, I guarantee you. But try not to come across too strongly or one-track minded. Ask questions regarding their experience and try to make it a reciprocal conversation. Diversify your social skill set. Be both self-directed and a team player. So take teamwork seriously. You definitely want to make sure that you are shining. You are also being collaborative and gracious with other teammates. It's definitely a hard balance to strike, but if you encounter a difficult team member, see it as an opportunity to grow and learn more about managing your professional relationships with poise. So really making sure that you're being as collaborative as possible, that you're being communicative, and that you're not letting other people's aggression or bad mood affect your work and your work ethic and even your work with them. Really being able to intervene where you need to, but also being able to take a back seat in a teamwork session. This doesn't mean that you're not taking the leadership role, but that you're demonstrating leadership through your teamwork. Participate thoughtfully in group discussions. So in group discussions, you want to make sure that you are showing your interest by asking questions, but make sure that you are not overtaking the entire conversation. Read social cues and make sure you are asking well thought out questions and leaving all the particulars or the personal things to an offline conversation. So you should raise a limited number, about 2 to 3, of really thought out, well questions in a group setting, but save further inquiries for an offline discussion. And again, this is going to take practice, but definitely in group sessions, making sure that, again, you're displaying that teamwork ethic. Rule 4, communicating with diplomacy. Never exhibiting your temper and resolve disputes in real time, meaning as soon as possible. You are going to have to speak with professionals and colleagues that might come off abrasive, but never lose your cool and exhibit your temper. It will set you apart from that person. And if you handle all situations with tactfulness and a strong sense of calm, it's really going to speak professional. It's going to mark you. If you find yourself in a dispute or a situation, make sure you approach that person individually, not in a group setting, and smooth over any miscommunication. And definitely if you have any questions about this, I'm always happy to speak with you. If you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable about how you want to approach something, it's definitely a huge, again, strike to balance, or balance to strike, but it really takes practice. Rule 5, model your style after successful individuals. In the beginning, you want to make sure that you are letting your work ethic take the lead in showing who you are, not your sense of style in your wardrobe. So avoid extremes in your manner of dress, model the behavior dress of successful individuals, and after you've established a track record as a high performer, you can be as eclectic as you are competent. So really, really leading with that work ethic and with your own, intellectual competency. Rule 6, administrative work isn't beneath you. So don't consider administrative tasks beneath you. It's all a means to an end. Realize that you will have to perform tasks, we all do, that you feel might be beneath you. But they are all steps to a fruitful career. Again, this will help you stand apart as someone who is a hard worker and who is a team player. Rule 7, network without being pushy. So make sure that you're reading the signals and making sure that if you've been speaking to someone for a good 5 minutes and you feel like they might need to go off somewhere else, that you're making sure that you have that exit strategy, that personal pitch where you're able to get your 30 seconds in, but you're not holding that person from other opportunities. Next, if someone hasn't called you back after 3 phone calls, back off. So making sure that you can follow up by email if someone's not returning your call, and really this just again managing your perceptions. If you're calling someone more than 3 times and they haven't responded, their perception of you might be that you're not really respecting their time and their busyness. So follow up by email, and you could even reference that you called them on the phone. But make sure that you're at least giving them 72 hours to respond. And this is actually something that I've seen with some students. They'll email me at 9 p.m. at night, and if I don't get back to them by noon, they're already sending me another email. And really just give us about 72 hours. There's a lot that we have to manage as professionals, as managers. So we just want to make sure that we're getting back to you, but we're not feeling as though you're coming off a little too pushy. Rule 8. Exceed expectations. So I know that this seems like a no-brainer, but you want to make sure that you are clear on the goals and tasks involved in any project, with clarity on deliverables, what needs to get done, and how you should prioritize each task. Then execute. So really asking about priorities, asking about deliverables, that's really key when you're given a project, to make sure that you are being as explicit as possible, and also that you're updating regularly. Rule 9, don't gossip with colleagues and superiors. So you want to make sure that you have a social life, but you don't discuss it in great detail with your colleagues and superiors. Realize that you have a professional persona. It is not meant to limit you and your expression, but this is also about letting your professional persona take the lead when it comes to your workplace. Also make sure that you're not sharing confidential information, and really that's just the key disadvantage of gossip, is that sometimes it comes back to you, and again, managing your perception as professional. It just does not look professional in any sense, regardless of how real or how witty your comment was about that person. Keep that to an offline conversation with you, yourself, and you. So really just keeping that as confidential as possible and making sure that you're being professional with colleagues and superiors. And lastly, Rule 10, choose a mentor thoughtfully. You really want to choose a mentor based on rapport, personality, influence, and impact. So if you are choosing someone that is not available, or someone that you don't feel necessarily comfortable around, I mean, that's fine in terms of an informal mentor. For someone that you really want to get that candid feedback from, really think about it in a sense of who are you comfortable with and who really has the job that you want. Also mentor others as well. I think many of you are in a situation where you've had experiences in jobs, so definitely have that reciprocal nature to you. So if you're getting this great guidance, make sure that you're reciprocating out that mentorship as well. So things to keep in mind. So your career development is an investment. Approach it early with passion, creativity, and enthusiasm. Be your best professional self and give it your best effort. Brand yourself. It's important to update your elevator personal pitch as your experiences and interests change. Your resume is never finished. Again, always have it on hand. Continue to add your new key and relevant points. And lastly, maintain your networks and relationships. So if you have coworkers from a year ago in a job that you really shined, make sure that you're talking to those individuals, that you're catching up with them, that you're letting them know where you are. Those networks will really pay off in the end. And also it's just great to have that rapport to you, that you're known as someone who really is communicative and really cares about relationships. So now is the time for questions. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I am going to send out a survey about this webinar to see if there's anything else that you feel that you would need from it, which will also be an indication that you've also watched the webinar. But if you have any questions about any of the things that I mentioned, the tips, resumes, things of that nature, we will be discussing resumes further down the line, so definitely be on the lookout for that. But I'm always happy to answer any questions, especially specific to the jobs that you're in right now and helping to be that guiding force. Again, my name is Elisa Ramos, Program Coordinator for SEOU, and I'm continually excited to get to know each and every one of you and hope that you found this webinar to be of benefit to you. Thank you again.